Because I've never been certain about anything. I'm an airy-fairy liberal who can't win an argument against herself, you know?
So what is then, on that point, the one question that you would ask, one should ask oneself in this battle, and I think JK Rowling was asked this.
Yeah, well, my conclusion chapter in my book is conclusion, what if we're right? So I took the way that I've written the book is I've got this ideal reader in my head who's kind of like slightly aware of something weird happening with the whole TERFs versus trans, isn't too sure what their own position is. And because you should always ask yourself if you're wrong. And I mean, I thought about this issue inside out, back to front and upside down before I ever said a word in it. You know, even on that 2nd of June 2019 when I was half cut and fucking Merlot, you know, I was like, I'm certain that I am right, that publishing an incitement to violence is wrong. Yeah. So I was certain about that, so I said something. But I'd worked out my core beliefs very early on. So, but you should always ask yourself if you're wrong. And I did for ages before I said a word. And that is where my certainty comes from. Because there's no way to say that women, there's no definition of women other than adult human female that doesn't cause a hell of a lot of problems.
I also think the onus is on them. They're making what is, by any sane person's understanding, they're making an extraordinary claim.
Yes.
So they have to provide extraordinary evidence. You don't have to be certain or not. You just have to go, all right, well, give me that evidence, and they haven't given it to you.
Yeah, well, that's how I open the conclusion. I say, if women who have been hounded are wrong, then we should have been provided with the evidence that shows that. But I mean, my conclusion overall is, even if women are wrong, and that women aren't materially definable, and we aren't legislatively and culturally important, nothing that has been done to women in the gender wars is justifiable, even if we're wrong.
Yeah.
It's illiberal, it's censorious, and it's fundamentally damaging to a democracy. So even if we're wrong, we should still be allowed to have meetings to talk about how we're definable and how we're legislatively important, and to campaign on that basis. And we should still have the right, as we now do because of Maya Forstater, to say, well, no, actually, I think that trans women are male, and it doesn't matter how pretty they are or how much surgical modifications they can afford. Males are males, women are women, and sometimes that matters. It's not an unreasonable thing to say. It's not illegal, and women's rights depend on it. So I mean, that's all there is. And people have gotten such a tangle over this because they're starting from the wrong point.
What did JK Rowling say in response?
Oh, yeah. JK Rowling said, so she was posed the question on the podcast, The Witch Trials of JK Rowling, by Megan Phelps Roper, formerly of Westboro. Baptist Church, who knows a thing or two about questioning your certainty. And she said, what was it she said? Oh, God, I should know this. I had it in my brain at one point, and you put me on the spot. If I'm wrong, hallelujah. If I'm wrong, people aren't being harmed. But if you are wrong, you have caused a climate where people are being harmed, and where you've, this is not verbatim, and you've created a climate, a frightening climate, where whistleblowers can't speak out. And even young people themselves have been intimidated out of speaking out and raising concerns. And that's true. I mean, they have. I know plenty of people with my beliefs who work in companies or industries, not just in the arts, but in the arts and publishing, in engineering even, actually, who have been intimidated out of raising concerns. And one of the worst places that's happening is teaching.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't actually include any teachers in my book, though I do write about the situation in universities. I'm a former teacher as well. I used to teach secondary school politics too, which is probably where I get that I'm just not having it kind of attitude towards all this bullshit. And I stopped being a full-time teacher in 2014, early 2014. This ideology was nowhere to be seen in my schools.
JK Rowling's so erudite, so she's just the way she speaks. So I mean, so are you, by the way. But
yeah, thanks.
Every time I hear something, I'm just amazed by how smart she is and how she puts words together.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and my God, I remember that. I remember the day in 2019. So I started getting hounded in June 2019. She did her infamous tweet on the 19th of December,
right,
2019, and she puts out, dress however you please,
Yeah.
live however you want, sleep with any consenting adult who have you. I stand with Maya. This is not a drill. And I remember just going, yes, it's over. It's like this amazingly admired philanthropist and children's writer has entered the fray. Surely everyone will go, women have got a point now. And then within 24 hours, I was just like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Because the backlash against JK Rowling was insane. And can I just say, I was writing my big, massive Dark Horse essay over the summer of 2020 when everybody had lost their minds on a variety of different issues because of lockdown and all the rest of it. And I saw the response she got to her essay that she put out in the summer. And I thought, oh my God, what the hell is going to happen to me when I release mine? Because I saw what my own hounders were saying about her. It was atrocious.
When you see someone like JK who risked everything in doing that, she didn't need to do that.
No, she didn't.
Does it make you annoyed at some of the public figures who are centrists who must know this is madness? Yeah. I often talk about Rory Stewart and Emily Maitlis. They're both there. Alistair Campbell. Actually, Alistair Campbell I think has got a kid who's involved in it, so maybe he believes in it. But the rest of them must know this is utter lunacy.
Yeah, it makes me absolutely furious with them. And the thing is, there's ways to get involved that if I'm not going to name names, but I do know quite a lot of other writers who are far better known than I am in Scotland and wherever who could have taken the heat off me in a second if they'd even done something as banal as, you may disagree with Jenny Lindsay, but you can't accuse her of this, that or the other. She was one of the most inclusive programmers of live literature. If anyone had done that, that would have taken the edge off me. Instead, I've not known for years where a lot of people actually stand. But with the ideas themselves, yes, I think a lot of particularly older writers are not ensconced in social media or whatever. They've just wanted it to go away, and they've sort of gone, if we ignore it, it'll go away, right? And I think a lot of them now actually are starting to go, oh shit, no, we can't ignore it. We'd better say something, or they'll find ways of talking about it without talking about it. And that's what annoys me. You can talk about this issue without talking about the issue if you talk about values. So you talk about freedom of expression or freedom of belief, do what the Scottish Poetry Library did. Our values are, we're against no platforming, but we don't take a viewpoint on the issues. We will book poets on the basis of being good poets.
But they don't say that. They say that the celebrity class, they say the tone is the problem. This is the tone, the toxicity of it. Gary Lineker is another one, the ex-football player, for those who don't know. And he's always asked, because he's got this podcast and he puts out questions. The questions are filled with people saying, can blokes play in women's football then? They never, ever answer
Never, ever answers. No, it's so annoying. And it's
you know what? The footballers, a lot of them follow me secretly. And I've DM'd a few of them, and I would never name, because why would, but I've DM'd like, hey, good to, blah, blah, blah. And they just don't reply, because they are shit scared, because they're thinking if they say anything to me, even if they agree, I'm going to which I wouldn't do, but I could take that and, that's the end of their jobs. But the footballers don't agree with this nonsense.
Nobody really agrees with it except fundamentalist gender identity activists, and I'm afraid they're wrong. So we're going to have to get to a point of sanity at some point. I think some people need to be spoken around at this point. For example, there's quite a lot of permanently online but not particularly influential people, gender identity activists, that I think just ignore them. Just ignore them. Talk around them because they don't speak sense. I'm humble enough to say in my book, though, it's really difficult to know what the next chapter of the gender wars is going to be. I think we have made some inroads, and I think it's good that a lot more people are speaking out. And also, I think that I spoke to Julie Bindel about this, actually, the length of time between cancellation and people saying publicly, oh, your cancellation is unjust. The length of time between that seems to be narrowing. So I started getting hounded in 2019. I got approached to write the book in 2023. I mean, that's only 4 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the final years of my 30s, but
Oh man, but it's nice. You do get sort of accepted by the other side, and I feel like we're growing, and we're, that point you were making before though about people can step in and sort of help out. I found it doesn't help always, because I tried that recently. Peter Boghossian, he's someone who I admire him as much as I admire anyone in the world, because he doesn't care that he could lose popularity on either side. He'll just say a thing that will be controversial. You'll never see it coming. It would be mad. And he doesn't care because the principle of let's have a debate is more important for him. And he defended that guy who was a Spanish politician or something who was eating his own.
God. Yeah. Oh, no, I remember this. Oh, Jesus.
It was literally the worst thing you can imagine anyone doing, right? Yeah. The most disgusting thing ever. And I'm quite sure Peter also thinks it's the most disgusting thing ever. But he said after everyone had like gone mad, the guy had lost his job already, all of this stuff, and was probably thinking about taking his own life. At that point, Peter said, here's an idea. We've all had a go. We've done it. Let's leave it alone now. And the stuff he got for that, people started accusing him, like saying the only person who would say that is someone who himself wants to ingest his own.
That's it. I mean, that particular story, I don't think I said anything about it, because sometimes when I see disgusting things, I'm really squeamish. I'm just like, mute. I don't even want to see this. Pierre Boghossian, though, is interesting because sometimes he does annoy me with the way that he does that thing where it's like, I'm just trying to understand, and I'm like, it's obvious.
And Julie Bindel got. I know,
and I love Julie, so I'm kind of like, I'm a really loyal person, and I'm just like, Team Julie.
I love them both though, and I want them to fight these things out.
Yeah, well,
and then to have a drink after, which I don't know if that's
possible. But yeah, no, I like having ding dongs with people and being able to get on afterwards, like. Yeah. Especially if I've won, which I,
That's the thing. Anyway, I then tweeted saying the suggestion that Peter, because he's doing a psychological thing, because that he actually wants to engage in the thing that he's saying, let's leave this guy alone, is absurd. To me, it shows a great level of empathy that Peter has for this guy who's done a disgusting, horrible thing and going, gosh, he must feel awful right now. He's obviously got a problem if he wants to do that horrible thing. Yeah. So I wrote a thing, and you can imagine, I then got absolutely.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
And now I also apparently like to partake in that horrible thing. So that's what happens when you do join in and say, hang on, let's just not have a go at this person, which is what you essentially did from the very start.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, the online stuff, I've had to get really used to how like Twitter X works, because as I say, back in 2019, I wasn't a big Twitter person. I ran live events. I'd done like debating and all that kind of stuff. I'd been on the Scottish equivalent of Question Time. I like that format. I much prefer offline, or even if it is online, it's something like this. It's like a discussion and it's whatever. But Twitter, the character limit, the potential for bad faith.
Yeah.
It's
accusations, just accusing.
And what it is it's the spiral, and so many women who've entered the gender wars have had this. Like Millie Hill, she made one comment on Instagram that got twisted, and it turned into Millie Hill hates and it's a hounder's playground.
It is, yeah.
And the potential for tripping the wire, even with your own side, is just ever present.
It's true.